When Max Verstappen says he's not worried about potentially being banned from Formula One, you know something serious has gone down. We're talking about a 4-time world champion who's just one penalty point away from having to watch a race weekend from his couch at home. So what exactly happened in Barcelona that's got everyone talking? Let me paint you the picture. It's the Spanish Grand Prix, 3 laps from the end, and Verstappen is having what can only be described as the worst possible day at the worst possible time. Red Bull had actually been running a pretty clever 3-stop strategy against McLaren's 2-stop, and for most of the race, it was looking competitive. Then Kimi Antonelli's Mercedes decides to blow up, bringing out the safety car and completely flipping the script. Here's where things get messy. Everyone pits under the safety car, but Red Bull has a problem. They've got no fresh soft tires, no mediums, nothing. So while everyone else is getting lovely new soft compounds, Verstappen gets stuck with hard tires. And if you know anything about restarts, you'll know that's like bringing a knife to a gunfight. Max immediately gets on the radio asking why he's on hards, and you can already hear the frustration building. The restart is an absolute disaster. Verstappen's car is sliding around on those hard tires, he has a massive sideways moment coming out of the last corner, and then Charles Leclerc swoops past him down the main straight. There's contact between them too, which just adds to Max's growing list of grievances. Then at turn 1, George Russell decides he wants a piece of the action and tries to overtake Verstappen on the inside. Now this is where it gets interesting from a technical standpoint. Russell actually does everything by the book. He gets his front axle alongside Verstappen's mirror at the apex, which, according to the racing guidelines, means he's entitled to racing room. But the question is whether Russell maintained control throughout the move, and honestly, Red Bull wasn't sure. In the heat of the moment, with everything happening so fast under the safety car conditions, Christian Horner's team made the call to tell Max to give the position back. This is the moment where Verstappen's frustration reaches boiling point. He's already dealing with, an impossible tire disadvantage. He's just been passed by Leclerc, now Russell's gotten past him, and his own team is telling him to give up another position. As Max later put it, the combination of their tire choice and some moves after the safety car restart fueled his frustration, leading to a move that was not right and shouldn't have happened. So what does he do? Verstappen slows down at turn 5 to let Russell through, but then, and this is the key moment, he suddenly accelerates again and steers into the side of Russell's Mercedes. It's not a massive contact, both cars survive, but it's enough to earn Max a 10-second penalty and 3 penalty points on his super license. Those 3 points are crucial because they take him to 11 total, just 1 short of the 12 that triggers an automatic race ban. So, George Russell's immediate reaction was pretty telling. Right after the race, he was convinced it was deliberate. Russell said it honestly felt like something that happens in sim racing, where a driver just gets completely mad and barges you out. He thought Verstappen was trying to show who was boss, and, well, he just got it wrong. But here's what's interesting. Russell has since softened his stance a bit. He now says he wants to believe that Max didn't intentionally try to crash into him because that would be pretty bonkers. Instead, he thinks Verstappen was just trying to intimidate him and, misjudged it. The really fascinating part of this whole story is how both drivers have handled it since. A few days after the race, they literally bumped into each other at the airport. Russell was heading to Roland Garros, Verstappen was there with his family and newborn baby, and they ended up chatting while Max was trying to fold down a pram to get through security. Russell later admitted he'd completely forgotten about their crash because they were just having a normal conversation about family life. Both drivers described the interaction as totally fine, no drama, no lingering tension. But let's talk about what this means for Verstappen's championship hopes, because, honestly, the timing couldn't be worse. This penalty dropped him from 5th place to 10th, costing him 9 points he desperately needed. He's now 49 points behind championship leader Oscar Piastri, and in a season where McLaren is looking this strong, every single point matters. This was supposed to be a damage limitation weekend, but instead it became a complete disaster. What's really striking is Verstappen's response to all this pressure. When asked if he's worried about the ban threat, his answer is classic Max. He says, life isn't fair and he's just going to race how he always races. When pushed on whether he'll change his approach, he's adamant. Nothing changes, no change in approach. He can't just back out of everything, he's going to race like he always does, and he trusts himself. This attitude is either incredibly brave or completely reckless, depending on your perspective. Lando Norris, who's had his own battles with Verstappen, thinks Max might actually fight even harder now because he's so far behind in the championship. Norris acknowledges that what happened in Spain was different from Verstappen's usual aggressive but controlled defending. This was something separate from that. The penalty points situation is actually pretty eye-opening when you look at the full list. Those 11 points come from a pattern of incidents over the past year. 2 points for his collision with Norris in Austria last season, 2 more for forcing Norris off track in Mexico, 1 point for a virtual safety car infringement in Brazil, 1 for driving unnecessarily slowly and qualifying in front of Russell in Qatar, 2 points for colliding with Sergio Perez in Abu Dhabi, and now 3 for this Russell incident. George Russell's take on a potential ban is, well, brutally honest. He says it wouldn't be unjust because that's exactly why the penalty point system exists. If you keep driving recklessly, you accumulate points and get punished with a race ban. Russell points out that Verstappen has it in his own hands and it doesn't come without risk. There's even a bit of cheeky humor from Russell, who jokes that, knowing Max as he does, he'll probably drive even more aggressively so he can have a weekend off at home. The really unfortunate part for Red Bull is that they didn't even need to tell Verstappen to give the position back. The stewards later decided there would be no action taken on the Turn 1 incident, meaning Max gave up the position unnecessarily. This will have just added to his fury in the moment, and Christian Horner admitted afterward that this whole situation has exposed problems with the current racing guidelines. Horner is now calling for changes to the system, comparing it to football where a referee can just wave play on instead of stopping the game. The current system puts all the responsibility on teams to make judgment calls in real time, often with incomplete information. In this case, Red Bull made a conservative call to avoid a potential penalty, but it backfired spectacularly. Looking ahead, Verstappen needs to navigate 2 crucial weekends, Canada and Austria, without picking up any more penalty points. The irony is that Austria is where he had that controversial battle with Norris last year that earned him penalty points in the first place. 2 points will drop off his license after Austria, but he needs to get there first without any further incidents. For the Canadian Grand Prix, Verstappen is being realistic about Red Bull's chances. He's targeting a podium fight with Ferrari and Mercedes, acknowledging that McLaren is just too quick everywhere right now. Canada's bumpy, low-speed characteristics don't play to Red Bull's strengths, and despite winning the last 3 races there, Max knows it'll be tough. The psychological aspect of this whole situation is fascinating. Verstappen has a history of losing control when multiple frustrations pile up on each other. We saw it in Hungary last year, and we've seen it again in Spain. The question is whether this ban threat will make him more cautious or actually push him to be even more aggressive in his desperation to close the championship gap. Oscar Piastri, who's currently leading the championship, expects Verstappen to keep racing hard. Piastri's approach is to race smart and keep himself out of trouble, following the philosophy that it's often better to still be in the race than to prove you were right in a particular situation. That's probably wise advice when you're dealing with a frustrated Verstappen who feels he has nothing to lose. What makes this whole story even more compelling is the broader context of how the penalty point system works in modern Formula One. Since its introduction in 2014, only Kevin Magnussen has actually reached the 12-point threshold, missing the Azerbaijan Grand Prix in 2024. The system was designed to prevent exactly the kind of pattern we're seeing with Verstappen, accumulating incidents through aggressive driving.